we are investing in things which might help us continue with our license to operate. I mean, at some point, I won't be able to emit CO2 to the atmosphere while producing cement. So if I don't address that, doesn't matter if I invested, I got 27 times return. I mean, I won't be able to operate and produce cement.
Hey everyone, this is Prashant and I'll be your host for the VC 10X podcast. And today we have Gonzalo Galindo with us. Gonzalo is the CEO of Cemex Ventures, the corporate venture capital arm of Cemex, the multinational cement manufacturing giant. In this episode, we talk about the mission at Cemex Ventures. Why does construction contribute about 14% of global GDP but only commands about 1.06% of global VC funding? Why strategic alignment is the most important thing for corporate venture capital firms, the different subsectors they are targeting at CMEX Ventures, some exciting portfolio companies solving very important problems, how CMEX Ventures helps its portfolio companies succeed, what's more important while evaluating deals, is it the founder or the problem? And a lot more. So without wasting any time, let's dive straight in. This episode is sponsored by my own podcasting agency called Podcast 10X, where I help VCs start and run their own podcast. While I was running VC 10X, this podcast that you're listening to right now, I asked my VC guests, why don't you start your own podcast? I mean, it's the best form of marketing for VCs. As they say, VC is a people play more than even a capital play. A podcast enables you to put your people at the front, your portfolio founders, your partners, and co investors. It's a great way to build a brand and win competitive deals. It activates all your marketing channels in a single shot, be it YouTube or blog post or newsletter or social media. Everything gets activated in a single shot. And I get the same response from all the VCs that it's a lot of work and we don't have the time for it. I said, all right, let me handle the work for you, from pre recording, editing, publishing to making social media clips. All you have to do is show up on a call, hit record, do the recording using the well researched outline we provide you with, and you're done. We handle everything else. You know what they said? All right, let's give it a shot. So if you are a VC and want to up your marketing and branding game, I'd love to work with you. And if you're thinking there are too many VC podcasts already, remember there are way more VC firms out there. And if you're not standing out, you're losing out. So if you want to work with me on starting your podcast, go to podcast10x.com and book a call today. I'll add the link in the description and show notes below. Look forward to working with you. Hey Gonzalo, so good to have you on the VC10X podcast. How are you doing?
Fine. Thank you, Prashant. Thank you for inviting me today.
Yeah, it's a pleasure having you on. To start things off, can we first have some story behind CMEX Ventures? Why was it started and what's the mission behind it?
Well, the reason we started Cemex Ventures is because at some point we felt in Cemex that innovation was going to be an instrumental thing for us to be successful in the future, giving so many different changes and initiatives that were happening, not only in the construction industry, but all across every single industry. For example, the digitalization was already disrupting some businesses all around. And on top of that, in the construction world, we have as well the increasing pressure of being climate responsible and address all those issues that may affect the future of our business. And certainly, in order to solve those problems, tapping into the open innovation platform of the world, it would be make sense for us. And that's how we ended up launching Cemex Ventures.
Absolutely. That's amazing insight there. And I've learned that while construction sector contributes about 14% of the global GDP, it is still only makes about 1.06% of global VC funding that goes into that space, right? So how do you look at that stat, and how are you looking to change that at CMX Ventures?
Well, construction in itself is a unique industry because it's different types of participants, segments, type of construction, and so on, which participate, which actually makes an industry which is difficult to change. somehow. No, you have all the way from a big port to a big bridge to a big building to a small house to an actual just a small self-construction activity in a low income part of a country. No, so it's very different, very diverse. I mean, and also one of the main reasons is that in one specific project, um, you can have a lot of people with different skills working in the project, all the way from specifier, engineers, architects, contractors, plumbers, electricians, and so on. No? So there's no way you can find the solution which will fit all. You need to start digging into the different bits and pieces and start improving all those pieces. No, and last but not least, every single project is different. So if you manage to have a successful, innovative activity in one project, that doesn't mean we'll give you the same solution or the same results in the next project. No, so it is not necessarily an easy industry to change. No, it will take some time. It will change. It has changed already substantially, but it will take some time. And on top of that, and one
Yeah.
of the reasons, bro, the venture capital is not necessarily flowing in the intensity that it should be flowing is because investors probably do not understand completely the realities of construction. So they prefer to be very cautious in how they will move into that. No, it's not going to be a solution with just digitalization will solve. It's not going to be a solution with just hard assets will solve. It is a combination of several things which makes investing in construction probably a little bit more complex than any other segment. No?
Absolutely, totally agree on that. And CMEX as a firm, it's a is almost a market leader in the construction in the cement space, especially, and it's been thinking about sustainability a lot. That's been a major focus in the recent years. So, can you tell us how that reflects in the venture strategy that you're following? Are you also looking at startups that are looking to solve that problem of construction being the major contributor in greenhouse gases? So, what are the kind of startups that you're looking at in that space?
Sure, sure. Well, this is also a problem which is quite complex because, for example, the type of solutions I'm looking for as a building materials producer, as a cement producers, might be slightly somehow different from whatever, for example, a constructor is looking, or an engineer is looking, or a structural engineer is looking into reducing the carbon footprint of a whole project. No, but at the end of the day, we all have to put our piece of help in actually to achieve that solution. In our case, we're first of all we're trying to solve our own emissions, our own damage to the environment. No? So we are looking into technologies like carbon capture and usage, storage. We're looking into technologies that help us get more environmentally friendly industrial heat and power, things like hydrogen, circular economy. We're looking into how we can evolve that and take advantage of all those technologies and produce products with a lower carbon footprint or with lower environmental damage and so on. No? That is the piece of what I can do, try to electrify our fleet, to actually emit less whenever we deliver our products. No? But that as far as what we can do. No? But then we need to connect with a wider world of how we will decarbonize the whole construction environment. No? And there's where we can connect with another type of solutions which might not be suitable for me, but suitable for my customers. No, digital solutions that can help them assess different products and assess them based on their environmental certifications and credentials, and try to combine them in such a way that the end product is the lower emissions or the best environmental footprint in general terms. No, so it's a set again of different solutions solving different pieces of the equations that we need to start putting them together at some point.
Absolutely, totally agree on that. And another space that you focus on is products or services that are trying to increase the productivity within construction. So, what are the kind of startups or maybe projects that you're looking at in that space?
Well, in that front, there's as well two sides of the coin. No? One is what we're trying to do to actually help our customers as well be more productive. So we're continually prospecting solutions which might help them do a better project management, a better collaboration among all the stakeholders in that project, uh, solutions that can help them supervise and analyze whether the jobs have been properly done, analyze advance in the job site and things like that. No, uh, uh, and that's some things that, for example, solutions which can actually help our customers assess whether our products are delivering the performance we promise, and whether due to that performance they can shorten the job site time that they will lead with us throughout the project. No? So those type of things that we're continuously looking at and recommending our customers to use. No, but also there's some other efficiency pieces which I can do. No, for example, how I can maintain my cement plants easier, how can I produce better products, better quality of products, and so on, which also is another set of different solutions which might affect everybody in the value chain differently. You know?
Absolutely, totally agree. And for once, let's try to broaden our lens a little more and look at the construction sector as a whole, right? And since you're investing, it's a venture capital arm of CMEX, right? So, how do you look at the construction sector as a whole? How big is this entire market? And what are the return expectations from the startups that you're investing in? If they are successful, then what will be the expected multiple on capital there?
Well, that's a, a big question. Of course, as anybody else, we're expecting the maximum return on capital. But in our case, in Cemex Ventures, we do this because we feel we have a strategic need to attract innovation that help us achieve certain strategic objectives. No? And as such, we put a lot of emphasis in the strategic return of whatever we do. In certain cases, we are investing in things which might help us continue with our license to operate. I mean, at some point, I won't be able to emit CO2 to the atmosphere while producing cement. So if I don't address that, doesn't matter if I invested any of that 27 times return. I mean, I won't be able to operate and produce cement. No? So it
Exactly.
has a huge, um, strategic implication. No? Having said that, at the end of the day, the corporation and my only LP Cemex is providing me with capital to invest in things, and of course, as any other investment fund, they are expecting a return from that money. No? And they are expecting a return as any other venture capital in the world. I mean, same rules and regulations. I mean, I will have to deliver at the same rate as anybody else, no? With the added complexity of the strategic content, no, of my investments.
Absolutely, totally agree. So, for what I derive from that is the strategic alignment is more of value in corporate venture capital than maybe the returns, which are of course important,
Indeed.
but first comes the strategic.
No, and of course it's important. I mean, at the end of the day,
Yeah,
we corporations have a duty to our shareholders, no,
absolutely.
which is increased value, no. But the value cannot be increased if the underlying problem is not resolved. No?
Exactly. Very true. Very true. Awesome. And another space that you focus on is supply chain within construction, right? So, how do you look at that particular space and the solutions you're seeing there?
Okay, look, I think supply chain is one of the most complex issues that the construction industry faces. And it's again a complex issue because the amount of people involved in securing the safe, in quality and in quantity arrival of building materials into a job site is a lot of people. Uh, and a lot of people which are not necessarily connected in the whole value chain. So in Cemex, for example, we're a company which have tens of thousands of trucks in the street every day. So in spite of the fact of being an industrial company, we are also essentially a logistics company as well. No? So from us, a lot of the solutions we're trying to figure out is how we can actually handle that fleet better, more efficiently, more effectively, uh, on the one side. The second is how I can deliver better our products on time and on quality, uh, which also requires us to actually have a huge conversation with our customers, because sometimes the mistakes do not happen on our side only. Sometimes the mistakes also happen at the job site. So how we can connect and have the visibility, and it's a lot about visibility and connectivity between customers and building material suppliers in order to make sure that that supply chain manages smoothly. No, again, is two coins of the story. How we can do our deal best, but also connect better and have visibility with our customers to actually make sure that we can deliver on time and so on. But in terms of building materials, for us in Cemex, doesn't stop in just delivering our products and that's it. It's actually helping our customers as well to get um, a much more smooth supply chain of any other materials that we can help them supply with. We usually concentrate ourselves in materials which are closer to our core, cement, ready mix, and aggregate, especially in countries like Mexico and Central and South America. Uh, but we also try to help other suppliers of those materials which are close to the phase of the construction in which we participate to make it as smooth as possible and to actually help our customers to be more productive.
Absolutely, that's amazing. And talking about a future of construction, a topic that I'm very excited about. So, are we going to see buildings being made at one place and being transported to another place, right? So, tell me more about what does the future look like for construction?
Well, it is a segment of innovation in construction which is taking more effort to start. Um, but I'm certain that sooner or later, many of those technologies, which not necessarily are very new, many of them, and many of them have been used in some places like in Scandinavia, in Japan, quite widely for quite some time. No, but many of those sooner or later will start taking off more vigorously. Uh, because there are structural situations happening in the construction world, especially in the northern hemisphere of this world, where people will be forced to look into those technologies more seriously. For example, the lack of qualified workers, environmental issues, speed of construction, cost of construction, and so on. No? Eventually, people will start looking to those technologies like offsite construction, 3D printing, and whatever you mentioned, much more seriously, and will start using them more. The fact that they haven't been able to launch it at this point of time to actually be becoming much more frequent is because probably as of today the perception is that the cost of building with those technologies might not be better than using traditional methods, no, but that eventually will change, and effectively
Yep.
one day we will see a whole building being transported across a city to be established somewhere, no.
Yeah, totally, totally. That's awesome. And now you've invested in a bunch of startups, right? So, would you like to mention some of those doing some exciting work?
Sure. For example, in the environmental front, we have an investment with a company called Synhelion, which has actually helping us harness solar heat to actually concentrate it and create a industrial heat source, which can help us actually produce cement without the use of fuels. It's a technology which is incipient, but it's working well, and we have a good feeling about it moving forward. We have invested as well in another couple of companies related to carbon capture, like Carbon Clean, which is a very novel amine-based carbon capture technology, and the carbon usage, like in carbon upcycling, which is a company which uses the CO2 that we capture to actually mineralize different products, which eventually can become building materials with lower carbon footprint. Um, we also have a couple of solutions on productivity like Obralink, which is a Chilean company, which they install what they call a bot, which is a set of cameras at the crane of the building, and they can start looking into the whole situation at the job site and actually measure the productivity of things and as well the performance of the concrete as we laid it out, and actually help save a lot of time in the whole concrete phase of the construction. Um, some others like last mile delivery solutions for building materials like Parrunner, which is a company which we are using in Mexico. So I can name each one in each of the different areas which I
Sure.
believe that they will make a lot of important and interesting inroads into the
Yep.
innovation of the construction world very soon.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's great. Thanks for mentioning. Those are all very very exciting companies doing very important work there. Right. And one thing I want to talk about is the construction tech investments in the LATAM region, especially. So that's seen a slight drop as compared to 2020 now in 2023. So how do you think that's going to fare going forward?
I think 2023 was a very difficult years for every single segment and every single region. Um, it's it is LATAM. On top of that, in the construction world, it has been a region which has not been uh, probably has been one of the smallest in any case. LATAM is a entrepreneurial ecosystem which has been growing, but it's still, I would say, a few years behind other important ecosystems like the US and Europe. And because of that, many of the entrepreneurship activity which is happening in LATAM has to do with things that happen in the US and Europe like 10 years ago. For example, a lot of investments in fintech, in prop tech, in marketplaces, commerce, and things like that. No, that's what is dominating LATAM today. Having said that, we managed to see a couple of important, of nice startups in Chile, Colombia, Brazil, Mexico, which in fact we have invested in a couple of those. No, now the fact is that construction realities in those places are completely different than construction realities in the US. No? In the LATAM, you will see more self construction, more different types of construction what you see in the US, and that has also an element of how construction technology will evolve in that region. No? But having said that, as any other region in the world, LATAM and construction tech suffered substantially in 2023.
And since Cemex has almost an authority in the construction tech space, it has to be an amazing advantage for your portfolio companies to get that kind of insight from Cemex, right? So tell us more about the portfolio support that happens post you've made the investment. How are you helping these startups succeed?
Actually, the conversation starts when we are investing, when we are doing due diligence.
Right.
We try not to give a check for the sake of giving a check. We try to have at least some terms of understanding with the startups on what is in there for us and for them in this relationship, no, and how we can help the startup grow and how we can or develop the technology faster and how can the startup help us in delivering certain innovations that we are needing in terms of innovation for the company, no? So that's a conversation which starts while we are actually considering the investment, and it's a conversation we take very seriously and has a heavy weight in our decision about investing in a company or not. And once we invested, um, for those companies, we managed to have a very clear relationship term sheet, to say so. We try to walk the talk and try to deliver on the promise that we made the startup with regards that relationship that we have. No, sometimes it's a little bit easier. For example, in a technology which will affect one of our cement plants, it's simpler because we have the assets, we have the engineers, we have so we can actually connect that technology and test it and pilot it and so on. For digital solutions, probably a little bit more difficult because sometimes those solutions we depend of third party, we depend of a customer and so on. But doing those connections and trying to make that system work is something that we spend a lot of time while in the face of we can call the portfolio management.
Absolutely, totally agree. And let's also touch upon portfolio construction here. I've talked to a lot of VCs who are like generalist VCs, and they have a different approach to constructing their portfolios. And here, this is corporate VC where strategic alignment is also very important. So How do you think about portfolio construction at CMix?
Well, as mentioned, we have very clear strategic objectives from Cemex, which are very well established, which are very well thought and continuously reviewed. Based on those strategic objectives is where we start building downwards our whole construction portfolio construction process. No, the company is interested in three or four things like decarbonization, circular economy, supply chain issues, productivity, health and safety, and that's where the type of things we look at. No? And we don't look outside that. Uh, and once we find something, we try to interact as much as possible with different stakeholders in the company to actually make sure that that specific technology or that specific solution will have some sort of resonance within the company. No, it is sometimes it's easy because it's quite straightforward, but sometimes probably the venture capital team, which is closer to the open innovation ecosystems, are seeing things and trends which probably the guys inside the company are not looking at. No? So it takes some effort in convincing and telling them this is something we need to try. Probably you don't see it today, but tomorrow there will be something which will make you think about this solution much more seriously than today. No, and try to have that balance between what really is needed and what we believe is going to be needed.
Absolutely, totally agree. And talking about the construction tech venture landscape, especially, that's been growing over the past few years and it's starting to build up, right? There are several notable firms in the space. So, do you face any sort of competition for deals, and how do you try to stand out among them?
Not necessarily, and you're right. 7 years ago, when we started Cemex Ventures, there were only three or four venture capital funds doing construction. Today, there are quite a few. Uh, I would say this industry and this venture capital in construction tends to be quite supportive. We understand that it's a small world still, and it's a world that we need to help grow together as people in the construction industry. Of course, sometimes we see deals that somebody else would arrived earlier, and by the time we tried to reach, probably the funding round was closed and so on. But we don't feel that this is a competitive thing. It's just simply the way things are evolving, and we try to keep a open conversation about innovation with those funds because we believe that that collaboration will actually help those companies which are innovative and will help the innovation in the construction world grow faster. No?
Absolutely. And one last question I'll ask you before we move on to the rapid fire round. And this one is basically what's more important while making an investment decision? Is it the problem that the startup is trying to solve, or is it the founders who are solving the problem? What's more important?
Um, I think it's on average, I would say it's 50-50, but sometimes the founder is much more important. Usually, the founder, even if the technology is the best one, the founder will make a big difference.
Got it.
But a great founder without any technology behind is just a great founder. A good technology without a good founder is just a good technology.
Yeah. Has it ever happened that you found a company that's attacking a very interesting problem that you want to include in your portfolio, but you don't think the founders are the best ones to solve that problem?
Yes, it happened quite often.
And do you ever
I
say
mean,
that?
it's not the norm, but it happened quite often.
Yeah,
And sometimes the problem is that sometimes the founders take time to understand that probably are not the best person to push this through. They are probably the best CTO, but not necessarily the best CEO.
yeah. And in those scenarios, what happens? Is that an immediate pass for you, or do you advise them to bring on a co-founder?
We try to talk to them,
Hmm. Okay,
and sometimes we have made the decision to even invest in those, and then we might leak our wants or not. But we are very straightforward. We're very upfront with them in trying to tell them, I think you need help.
got it, got it. Awesome. Now let's do the rapid fire round. I'll ask you five quick questions about the investing you're doing, and you have to give five quick answers, right?
Okay.
So the first one is, what are the sectors and regions you invest in?
Regions, usually the US, Europe, and then Latin America. Sectors, certainly construction technology, climate action, supply chain.
What's the typical stage of investment where you come in?
Usually early stage, not necessarily seed. We want to see companies with certain level of development that we can actually help them grow.
What's the typical check size you put in?
Depending on the sector, between half a million and 1.5 million. For climate action, probably more from the million to 1.5. For digital solutions, half a million to 1 million.
Right. Where can founders reach you to apply for funding in case there's a direct way?
They can reach us at our website, www.cemexventures.com. There will be a way for us to connect with them.
Great, great. Last one. Where can listeners follow you and what CMEX Ventures is up to?
Again, you can visit our website at www.cemexventures.com. They can find all what we do, the areas of interest, the startup competition that we organize, and they can actually enroll in the startup competition. They can download a lot of the content we build, like the top 50 startups to be watching each year. They can see our portfolio, our areas of interest, and actually connect directly with any of our team members at Cemex Ventures.
Absolutely, I've seen that report and it's very insightful. So people should certainly go check that out. Thanks so much, Gonzalo, for doing this podcast with
Thank you
me.
very much.
It's been very insightful and happy investing.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Prashant.
Thank you.